Welcome back to Game Galaxy, and today is not a great day. I hope you can bear with me here because I'm going to ramble because I got a lot of passion and things and thoughts to say about this. But for those who don't know, over the past couple of weeks, Nintendo has been on the warpath for getting their ROMs removed from ROM hosting sites. Like Love ROMs was one of those sites that had a bunch of Nintendo stuff. It is now gone, doesn't exist anymore. But this leads me to the next point of Emuparadise has shut down, a website that has been around for years and has been an amazing resource for getting ROMs, a safe site, non-virus, no BS, none of that. And that website, Emuparadise, didn't have any first-party Nintendo ROMs on there. That had been removed years ago. But just a few hours or days, I don't even know. I checked it this morning at 4. And I've literally been losing sleep over this. I couldn't go back to sleep. I was up at around 4:30 a.m. and I had recently heard about a game called Magical Poppin'. It was a Japanese Super Famicom game, and I was like, oh, I want to try that. And usually, Emuparadise has Super Famicom games. And I went there, and sure enough, the listing was there, but no download link. And I thought, oh, that's strange. And I kept going, and kept going. Well, it turns out they have removed all of the ROMs on the website, every single ROM, as an avoidance of, I think, what Nintendo's doing, although they didn't directly say it. The owner of the website did post an article where he says, like, the times are changing with re-releases and classic things, and, you know, it's just not worth the legal trouble to have this stuff anymore. And now the easy answer to say is that, like, you know, and I've said this time and time again, when it comes to Nintendo or anybody, if there's an easy digital solution where these games are still being sold today, absolutely purchase them, and absolutely there's no real argument against emulating or purchasing it legally in a way. There's no real argument there. But what I do have a problem with is that, like, emulation, if you're gonna do that, make your service good, and I'm going to talk about that, particularly Nintendo's Virtual Console service, and talk about how I don't think it's all, you know, that great of a service, but more on that later. But I want to talk about emulation in the terms of, like, I think it's great for the hobby, and I do not think it hurts sales. Number one, emulation I see as a way of video game preservation. The more people have copies of these things, the more we can keep them alive. Now, for example, I've been a fan of gaming my whole life. However, emulation has allowed me to go back and experience things I would no way have the ability to experience anymore. And an example is, sometimes I will go, because I'm such a fan, I will go seek out a new system to experience. For example, the recent one I've been interested in getting into is the Amiga computer. I didn't have an Amiga growing up, and I didn't know anybody that had the Amiga growing up. Over here in America, IBM PCs and DOS was more popular. I think Amiga had much more traction in the UK and the rest of the world. So I didn't know anybody who had it, but I'm very curious and eager to try some of those Amiga games. Now, a lot of Amiga games had DOS ports, but that had superior graphics and, of course, sound. I've heard, you know, all of the sound and music, of course, from Amiga for years. So I just, you know, I really want to do that. And, you know, if I went down to Emuparadise, and too bad, I can't get them anymore. And that's the thing, and I want to flip to when I talked about it not hurting sales, and I'm sorry I'm jumping around here, but it not hurting sales. Let me take you back to when I was in middle school, okay? I grew up a Sega kid. I had a Sega Genesis, I never had a Nintendo console. I only played Nintendo at friends' houses and through emulators. Now, when I got my own computer in middle school, I went through like an NES phase because I wanted to play everything that I missed out at, and I did that through emulation on the very old emulator, for any of those old school people that remember, called Nesticle. Now, in 7th grade, I went through a Mega Man phase, like hardcore. I was obsessed with Mega Man, I fell in love with those games, and I played all of those NES Mega Mans. Now, it was a great experience, and I did it for free on emulation, right? I don't know why I did that. However, years later, when the PlayStation 2 came out and the Mega Man the Mega Man Anniversary Collection was released, I absolutely purchased it. You know, here it is. I bought this game. Would I have done that had I not experienced and fell in love with those games through emulation? I'm not entirely sure. I feel like I could easily have seen this and let it pass by me. But because I emulated it and experienced it at a younger age and had great times with it, I absolutely was like, yeah, dude, I love playing on the PlayStation 2, so I'm definitely gonna buy these games I love to play on the PlayStation 2. And now I love playing on the PlayStation 4. I have not gotten it yet, but I plan on getting the Mega Man collections again. That means I'm buying it twice. Why? Because I originally emulated them and I experienced them. So that's why I don't think it hurts sales. And Nintendo, here's the thing. I always talk about Raspberry Pi. I've got tons of NES games and SNES, but you know what? I still bought your classic editions. Why? Because I love your games, I love your products, and I just love the hobby. Emulation doesn't stop me from buying these at all. In fact, it helps a lot of people who have hacked these and then they put more ROMs on it. Well, you know what? Good for them. They're enjoying your product. So let me show you something real quick. This is an original Game Boy cartridge of Super Mario Land 2. I've said it before, this is one of my favorite Mario games. Watch what happens when I put it into a Game Boy Advance SP. Alright, here we go. When you put an original Game Boy cartridge in a Game Boy Advance, you can see it adds in these cool color palettes like a Super Game Boy. And I personally loved that. I thought it was great to play these old games with a little bit of color. Some people might not like it, but I do. Now, watch what happens when I play the same game on a new Nintendo 3DS. I paid $3.99 for it from the eShop, and you can see it's the game in monochrome black and white. So I see I have Virtual Console menu options, but when I go in there, the only thing I can do is make a save point or go back to game. There's no color options at all. And now, let me do the same thing with my GPD XD. I'm going to be running RetroArch and using the Gambate core for it. So you can see I'm playing the same game with the same exact color palette that the Game Boy Advance was able to do through emulation on my GPD XD, whereas the official purchase from Nintendo doesn't even have that function to replicate it like you could on other systems. And that is where I think is just, it's a tragedy, and where your service isn't as good as what emulation is providing you. And here's the thing. Now, I know digital sales moving forward want to remove used game markets from the equation, but I got this from a resale shop. Nintendo didn't get any money for this game. It's the same as a ROM. Now, that's justifying, I know that's probably trying to justify piracy, but you know, it's just killing the hobby. I still bought that game on the 3DS because I love it. Not because, oh yeah, I can emulate it here. No, I was like, you know what, $3.99? Sure. So again, emulation was not stopping you from making a sale. So another random thought is, I love Mario Kart Double Dash. I have the real game, but nowadays I prefer to play it on the Dolphin emulator. Why? Because I can get perfect visual quality through that emulator and display the game in any resolution I want, although I do keep it at 480p, but I was never able to play it in progressive mode on my GameCube because I never had those component cables because they were rare and way too expensive to buy. Now there are some HDMI adapters for the GameCube now, but it's just more headache than it's worth, and I've seen some GameCubes be ruined from those adapters. So all in all, I just feel like Nintendo's ruins the hobby a bit, and what I mean by that is also in their thinking with how they dealt with YouTube videos and monetization. Now, I don't talk about a lot of Nintendo stuff on here because if I'm not through their partner program, or I don't agree to partner that exact video and share the ad revenue with them, they will copyright strike me. And that is why I don't talk about a lot of Nintendo stuff. And when I do, I don't monetize it. I don't do YouTube for the money. I don't make a lot of money on this channel. I'm not getting, you know, tons of views that warrant money coming in. But it's the fact that, you know, the fact that I have to go an extra step where I don't have to do that with Sony, Microsoft, Sega, literally anybody else in the gaming industry. I don't have to. Why? Because the rest of those people understand the importance of this community and the internet and how much that actually helps bolster sales and excitement around a product. So when I talk about a Nintendo thing, I don't monetize it, which means YouTube does not share the video with you in your recommended videos and it doesn't get seen. And so I put a lot of effort into these things, into these videos a lot of times, especially a review, when I don't have a lot of time in my life. So if it's not going to be watched because YouTube doesn't like to put forth non-monetized videos, it's not worth my time. And so half the time I don't talk about Nintendo things. And I just think little things like that, just have them in an old mindset. So I'm gonna stop blabbing. I'm just really unhappy that Emuparadise has gone away. There are still some websites still up, some websites still up with some Nintendo stuff, and there is one that I've used way back in the late 90s and early 2000s that is still up, although his server must be getting hit because the downloads are real slow right now. I'm not even gonna name that website because I don't wanna see that one go away either, but I don't know, let me know what you guys think about this. Am I just a dirty stinking pirate, or do you see my point of view on how emulation is actually good for creating interest in retro gaming as well as respecting and preserving it? Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, I'm very sad about this news. Emulation is totally under attack. I'll see you next time.